What's up, everybody? Welcome to ARTiZM Season 2, I think Episode 9, which is the first time I've hit this, but the third intro. So today we have 2D artist David Razi. What's up, man?
Hello, I am the 2D artist, Razi, as you said, and I'm man, that's what's up with me.
Sounds good. Yeah, so for everyone, David is a YouTuber. He makes little 2D art series called Technical Dave. You could just give a quick overview again for them.
All right, I was in college, and I graduated college, and then I thought, man, people don't really have a good idea of what art school is like, so I should enlighten them and make little videos kind of describing it. Also, it gave me something to do because I kind of just needed a project to stay creative and not fall into a coma after I got home from work.
Right. So David's videos are kind of like 2D frame by frame, not frame by frame animation, just like, you know, I would liken it to Lord Bung's videos, or like, you know, comic book panels that move maybe a little bit more than comic book panels, but you know. But
yeah, like I didn't go to school for animation. I took illustration. So I was just like, well, I'll work with what I got. Otherwise, I'll never end up uploading a video.
What is it that you want to do, like, you know, as like a dream job?
Dream job? Originally, I want to be a comic book artist.
Is that
Well,
still?
like writer and artist. So this was pretty similar to that. Like that's what I always wanted to work towards. Not like superheroes and stuff like that. In the sort of like, that's what all comics are. But like, man, I want to make comics one day. And I didn't really know who to talk to or how to get into that. And by the time it's not, but it's certainly in the same vein.
Okay, so you said Technical Dave, certainly in the same vein? Sorry, you lagged a second.
Oh yeah, like Technical Dave is kind of like doing comic books in a way.
Yeah.
And that's what I always wanted to do. So I guess in a way it's successful.
Did you ever,
Kinda.
I remember you like mentioned in a video that you wanted to start a comic like for 2 years after you came back from Korea. And did you ever start that or not?
Oh yeah. There was this comic, you have an idea and you sort of mull it around in your head for a while, and you end up sort of writing scripts or fragments of scripts and having this sort of canon and characters in your head. And you're like, man, one day I'm going to do that. And, then I started working full time and having to commute, and you sort of have to put everything on the back burner. And that, coupled with like Technical Dave, made my free time a bit of a commodity.
Yeah.
And so while it remains like that project I want to do, it again keeps getting pushed back because you have more immediate
Priorities.
responsibilities. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, I was watching an Eric Andre interview the other day, and he said he came up with the Eric Andre show concept when he was like 23. So.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Like, it's just like and I mean, you know, were you to start it later on, you'd obviously be more proficient in illustration. So I think it would only turn out better as long as you obviously get around to it, which is, you know, the ultimate.
As long as you actually get it done. Yeah.
So with Technical Dave, you come at art school in a very negative, matter-of-fact kind of light. Like, you say you want to tell people about art school, but you are like, it's more of like a warning than anything else.
It kind of is. I guess it might be called like a cautionary tale, because the view of art school tends to be one of two things. Either it's like a big joke and, oh, it's just people sitting around like smoking weed and painting, like it's not even really school. Or alternately, it's people think like, well, that's going to be like a paradise. It's going to be like heaven. Like I'll finally like instantly become an artist with no effort.
Yeah.
And all my friends are going to be there, and it's going to be perfect. Like it's
creativity
work.
will be flowing.
Yeah.
It's going to be a blast.
Like it's an education. You have to work for it, and it takes years, and it's hard.
I mean,
so if you have this weird idea going in, you're going to be so disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, I went to film school. I didn't go to like an art school. I went to like I went to the University of Colorado for 3 semesters. And
All right.
I went to the film school there, and like, while it's not like a, art school, so it's not as serious, that was sort of like the, per se, weed smoking, lazy kids making films, smoking weed. And
Right.
I did not fit into that mold. I was like working so much harder, and I was just like, I can't do this. So I ended up leaving just because it was like not worth my time. And I think because art schools are so like small and exclusive to an extent, people don't get the full picture.
Yeah, even my art school, like I went to a school known for art. It's known for an art school, and yet the artists were on campus because they had all these other programs, business programs and stuff, to sort of, make more money. You can't have a school just teaching the one thing. And even all the other students at the school were like, man, who are these lame art kids hanging around? Like, even they didn't get it. And the dean, or actually we had a CEO, not a dean, he did not care for the art kids at all. And
Really?
the way the finances and faculty were handled reflected that. So even at an art school, no one cared about the art kids.
I mean, yeah, it's just like there's not really like, I don't think there's too big of like an ROI on most art majors. So it's just like, okay, yeah, so we let these kids go through, and then when they're waiting tables in a year, like, have fun.
All they care about for the most part is if you get a job in art within like 6 months of graduating. They don't care if you keep the job. They call you up after you've graduated and they're like, hey, did you get a job in art? And you're like, yes. And they're like, okay, good. And then they check you off, and then they can say like 98% of our graduates get a job in art within a month of graduating, or something like that.
And then are unemployed for the next 10 years, but that's like...
Yeah, after you get the job, you could have the job for a day, but as long as you got it, they're like, yep, excellent, we're succeeding, and they move on.
They have like an asterisk, like, it does not reflect happiness.
It doesn't actually succeed.
Yeah. So with you, I mean, there's definitely like aspects where you're kind of like warning people from art, but like, do you actually feel that way, or would you more like to
yes and no. Like, I mean, yeah, obviously I sort of play up the depressing part a bit for the laughs, because at the time there was some sad stuff going on, and it was hard. But looking back, you can have a more, sober reflection. Yeah, it's like right down the middle. It's both. Mm-hmm. It had things that would make me say never go to art school. And then there are other things where I'm like, man, I could only have done that there. Like the people I met. And I don't mean like, oh, my friends. I mean like, the teachers and the connections and things like that were very helpful. It gave me some perspective on my life. But I mean, really, I think if you're the kind of person who is very motivated, very artistic, you don't need to go to art school. And I know that sounds kind of dismissive. And like, oh, well, if you think you're good enough, just don't go. I don't mean that, but I know a lot of really good artists who are, people who are much, much better than me. And half of the best artists I know never went to school of any kind for it. I mean, maybe they went for business or something else and they dropped out, but they didn't go to school for art.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, I spent 3 semesters at school. And in the last year, since I haven't been there, I've improved like 10 times the amount that I did at school. And
because you're like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to teach myself and I'm going to drive into it. But I knew I was not that kind of person. I needed some focus.
I'm not even disparaging like the like teachers. I think teachers are very important. I think if you need that kind of organization, at the end of the day, it's knowing yourself, right? And knowing what's best for you.
Yeah. I mean, my teachers were great. The faculty, like the rest of the faculty, they kind of sucked, and the school administration sucked. But my teachers teaching technical illustration, they were phenomenal.
Yeah.
They wanted to be there.
So when you're looking back at Technical Dave in sort of like a retrospective sense, are you just like, how does it feel to like just kind of like relive the past? Like, is it weird?
Kind of. Sometimes it's a little sad. Other times, a lot of the time, it's very, very cringy.
Yeah.
I think about things I did or said, and I'm like, what kind of a fucking idiot was I?
I feel that way.
Sorry. Can I use foul language?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Fucking poop butt. Yeah, I look back at things that happened. I was like, oh man, I can't believe I was that stupid. But I was like, when was I there? I was like between like 19 and 25 when I was in college. Mm-hmm. So, now I'm 34. I can look back and be like, oh, he was an idiot. I would never do that. But, you have to do those stupid things to learn to not do them.
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
try not to beat myself up too much over it.
I don't think it makes it cringe any less knowing that you had to do it.
Oh no, there are things that I did or thought or whatever when I was alone by myself and no one around. There was no witnesses, and I still think, wow, that's fucking embarrassing.
And I mean, kind of like wearing your heart on your sleeve and putting it in technical Dave. I don't know. I've done that a couple times with art projects where I like really kind of put my shit on the face. And I mean, there's something kind of liberating about it.
There is a lot of people, not to like talk myself up or anything, but a lot of people will message me and say, hey, thanks for talking about this. I went through something similar, and it feels really good to know other people did too. So that feels good for me.
Yeah.
Because one, at least I'm not alone. Two, other people got something out of it. But then I also get people being like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. You're a fucking idiot. And it's like, well, that's going to happen.
I think, you can only get the pros with the cons, right? So.
Yeah. What's really strange though, oh, sorry.
Okay.
What's really strange though is that sometimes I'll get the occasional message and they'll be like, wow, you're an idiot for doing this. Like they'll be talking about it like it happened this week.
I don't think
I can't
it's
believe
super.
you think this. Like I don't think this. I thought that. Okay, that was 12 years ago.
But I also don't think it's super on the face that it's like this thing of the past, unless you've seen the full series. But
Yeah, I mean, I usually try to mention that it's, oh, back then, or I did this, or I'll put the date. If it's a specific event when the episode starts, I'll put the date.
yeah, I think it's
March 2005.
there's a few of them where I was like, oh, this seems like it's a couple years, because it's not like, I don't know, you're not speaking like an old timer, like, oh, back in my heyday
Back
at school.
in the 60s.
Just like, yeah.
Yeah, things were different enough, but I mean, it was the minor changes, right? Like the technology changes, but it was essentially the same as it is now. I'm sure if I went over to Sheridan College now, I wouldn't really notice too much of a difference, except they all have better computers.
Yeah. I think the new one, the Mac and Me one, was really kind of the illustration of, okay, this was a good while, because you were already an adult getting your new computer, and it was like this bulky ass.
Yeah, it was so different. Back then, it was like, wow, these Mac things are kind of cool. And now it's this huge emotional divide. How dare you like such and such, Mac or PC, or, oh, if you're not into Linux, whoa, crazy.
I'm just glad that those Linux people are a giant minority and they don't get to speak.
Yeah, I know a few of those. I have a few friends who are like really tech savvy, and I am completely not.
Neither am I.
So
I have
occasionally
they'll
have some discussion. I'm just like, look, I don't know. Can we talk about something fun or normal, please?
I have a Mac in front of me, and whenever I just like, I don't talk. You know what's funny? I'm like completely allergic to my Mac. It's like the entire thing. I'm not. It's all made of like nickel. There's nickel on everything, and I'm allergic to it. If I touch it,
yeah,
it makes me swell up.
You mean like literally? Oh no.
Yeah, my entire Mac is like covered in plastic.
Oh geez, that sucks.
It like just started
I have
happening.
both.
What?
I have a Mac at home and a PC at home, and at work I have both. I like them both. I use them both, and I see the merits of either.
Yeah.
But some people get like really emotionally invested into the products other people buy.
Yeah, I think it's like superiority complex. Just like want to be right about certain things, but it's like okay.
Yeah, I really don't care what someone uses unless there's a compatibility problem, like at work.
Yeah.
Because then I have to know to make sure that we have the same thing. But other than that, I don't care.
Yeah. So I mean, on videos, you said you get like certain comments, especially on like Disengage. I saw a couple comments, and they're like very heartwarming comments. Like people like sent their girls this video and just like you fell in love, got married because of your fucking video. How does that feel?
It's crazy because well, first of all, because that's like a big like load to dump on someone, right? Like, oh, I did this because of you. You're like, wow, thank you.
Yeah, like,
thank you very much. Secondly, because like I can kind of relate. My videos got me my fiance.
Really?
Which
in what way?
Yeah, my fiance was sent one of my videos by a friend of hers who was in art school, and she's like, wow, this is really cool. She watched them all. She's like, I have to meet this guy.
Oh shit.
And so she messaged me on Facebook, and she was like, hey, is it weird if we become friends? I like your videos. Like, no, that's not weird. Let's be friends. And so we would talk, and we started talking like every single day.
And it just
And I would like
blossomed.
wait for her to get off, like to come home and talk to me. And then we were like, hey, let's meet up. And, and we did.
The rest is
So
history.
my videos got me her. So it's nice to know that other people have something similar. And that video, like I can't even take credit for that video. That the music was done by a friend of mine, and she did an absolutely phenomenal job. I was like, hey, I have this video. I'd like it if you did some music. I need some music. She's an excellent musician. And she's like, actually, I have a song I've written that I think would work. And she sent it to me, and I was like, wow, that is just fucking perfect. Awkward Tunity. If you're ever on YouTube, she has a channel up with music on it, and it's still there, and it's very good stuff. But she did that, so that was like the hard work, was the song, and I just kind of worked around it.
Yeah, it's kind of like startling, like the butterfly effects of everything. It's just like,
yeah, we're all connected, man.
I know, right? It's just like fucking art school, man. It's gonna bring the world together. So, how many more semesters do you have left before you're like out of material, or are you just ages away from that?
Oh, dude, I got a long ways to go. I was in college for 6 years because I did art fundies for 2, and then illustration was 4. And right now we're in the end of the first year of illustration. So I've got 3 more years. There's, I think, 6 more episodes in this semester because I actually wrote out like an outline because I want to move it along. It's been going on for a long time. So I was like, okay, what episodes do I need to finish this semester? What are specific events that took place that year? Like I had like the episode on computers, let's say, where it was just like, oh, what to expect for computers class. That could go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. That's not sensitive to the timeline.
Right.
So I was like, okay, what do I need to get through this year? I think there's 6 more, and then we're done. Then we're into second year, or anything I think is relevant in the summer, but I don't think there is.
Yeah.
So I got years of material to work with.
So you have every intention of like finishing all the years?
Absolutely. I plan on going up until I graduate college, and then maybe even a little after that, if I can think of an art related thing that was important.
Kind of like
actually my first job out of college, that was totally relevant. So I'd include that.
You could just always just be like a decade ahead of wherever you are and just keep going till
Yeah, I mean, at the rate I'm going, I used to put out episodes 2 a month, so 1 every 2 weeks, which was easy when I was working at a cafe downtown. I used to work at art student. I worked at a coffee shop. So I mean, I'd work all day, and I'd be thinking about it.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? And I'm working on my feet, and I'm getting tired physically, but emotionally, mentally, I'm still there. So I'd get home and I'd be ready to work.
Yeah.
Hours into the night, I draw. Well, now I work at a desk in front of a computer
and
for like 8 hours. Thing, right? And by the time I get home, man, the last thing I want to do is sit in front of a computer and do more drawing.
Yeah. I can see that. When I worked a labor job, I was just loading boxes. I get it. Like it doesn't tire you out mentally in the slightest, especially like I was just doing fucking numbers. So like, yeah, it's just like you're just like itching. I wasn't even like doing much art at the time. So you're just like itching to do something.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. I'm going to get this idea. I'm going to get home. I'm going to like work and work. Oh, I can't wait. Yeah. And then you get home and you do it. And now it's like, wow, you look over that computer like it's a death sentence. You're like, maybe I'll just play a little Nintendo, have a shower and go to bed. That's
what kind of freaks me out about like freelancing or just like an art job. I'm like, fuck, will I lose like that extra drive to do the stuff that I want? And it's just like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, finding that balance between doing what you're good at for a living and doing it for fun. It's hard because people think, well, I like doing this, so I should do it for a career. And that's not necessarily true. You should do for a career what you can do for a career, like something you're competent at that you can keep doing.
So yeah, something that at the end of the day it has to make sense logically. So yeah, because life isn't just I feel like I'm an artist and it'll work, right? Like
yeah, I mean, geez, some of the people I knew in college were terrible artists, but they're like, oh, I can do this. Like, buddy, I don't think you're ever gonna get it. You could never tell them this. That'd be awful.
That was my issue at school too. Is like these kids, who would basically do the bare minimum and like just smoke weed and just kind of like just like let the art do itself, bro. It's like
Yeah.
you're never gonna get it. And then they're
There
gonna
was
get out
one
of
guy who
college.
was
They're gonna
Go
get
ahead.
out of college and get like an industry job, and just
Yeah.
be essentially just low on the tier because they didn't fucking put in the work.
I knew a guy who was terrible art, like objectively bad.
Yeah.
And we were all convinced he cheated on his portfolio to get in because we had seen his portfolio pieces and they were not what he was handing in now
Yeah.
or then. And we're just like, how did he get here? And then he'd be in class, he'd be angry, he'd be stomping around, be like, oh, I don't even want to be here. This is so stupid. You don't know what they're doing. And it's like, buddy, there are people who did not get into this class because you did.
Yeah.
Right? You have to apply and then you get in and then you take up a seat. And if you don't want to be here, then fuck off.
Yeah, the lack of gratitude and like complete entitlement is insane. So for you, with like taking outside projects now, like sort of in a creative aspect, like you did "Ain't No Rest for the Triggered" by Chris Ray, which is
Yeah, well, I mean, that was awesome. I enjoyed doing that. A lot of fun. He came. Well, no, actually, I went to him, but he came back to me. I found him one day randomly, and I was like, "Hey, I like your work. Maybe we should do something together because we have a similar sense of humor and stuff like that." And then months later, he's like, "You know what? I found a thing. How about this?" And it was that video.
Yeah. So was this when Chris was a lot smaller, or is this like sort of?
Oh yeah, much smaller. It was. Well, I mean, I guess I could just look at the video's upload date and find out like retroactively when it was. But it was, I think, he had about as many subscribers as I do. So
like
I want to say he
20,000.
was around like 20,000 ish, because it was somewhere near me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, we're both similarly sized channels, although he exploded. But I have a pretty niche market, right? Like videos about art school. It's a pretty niche topic.
Yeah, I mean, like you, in a sense, kind of are. You're like, I don't want to call you a storytime animator because I don't want to like disparage you.
Though there's like a stigma with that.
Yeah, there definitely is because I think it's.
Yeah, I get that.
I would call it like very high tier version of that.
Okay, thanks.
But also it's not like general like what did I eat for breakfast every day, and like it's, so it's very like I do think it definitely could be a lot bigger, right? I just think
thank you.
I think the story time animators are like catered to like 12 and 13-year-olds, which are like a huge population on YouTube.
Well, someone recently said like, oh, you should do a Draw My Life video. Like that's aren't I doing that?
He's just
like
he's
I'm
making
doing
like
that.
a 5-hour long version of it.
Do. Yeah. These are very real things from my life.
So
except for a lot of the death and destruction I show, but that's just to keep me entertained while I'm drawing.
Yeah. So for like, as far as you improving on Technical Dave, where like, because these are all true stories, so I assume you definitely improve how you storytell, because I've seen some of the old stuff and the new stuff. You definitely have improved in that aspect, but like,
thank God.
Where do you focus on like the most? Is it just like the illustration part or like the boarding?
It's probably I try to focus on the audio and the writing, because as much as I love drawing and have always drawn as far as I can remember, it's not my favorite part of making the videos. I try to write something funny that makes sense, like to have like a tight narrative with a point. I used to sit down and I would write and I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to write and see where it goes. And it always, every time, almost without fail, would take me about 1 hour. And then I would just seem like I was done. Like be like, oh, this tied up nicely. This is about right. And videos would end up being the same length, like 5 minutes or so, somewhere in there. So it would just sort of naturally happen. And they were good. I was satisfied with the scripts. But then later I was like, okay, I'm going to like write it and then come back to it later and then tighten it up and maybe organize some things. Like I started being more like an actual writer and less like a, what do they call that? Stream of thought kind of a thing.
Stream of consciousness, yeah.
So yeah, I tried to focus on making that better, and I think the scripts have gotten better. And then just the, I guess,
Delivery?
yeah, the delivery. There you go. Just making it sound a little more like
Impactful, peaks and
finding my
valleys.
voice, I guess they call it. I had to
Yeah.
find my voice.
I could see that.
And then there's the illustration, which I hope gets better, but is not really my focus because it's the longest part. And I just want to get it done. I just want to have an upload. I'd rather have an imperfect video than seek perfection and never upload anything. Because I mean, it already takes long enough as it is.
I feel the same way. I like just put an upload up like before we started this, and it's the longest the video's ever taken. Oh, appreciate it, even though there's no way you could have seen it. But
well, I haven't watched it because we've been talking. But,
exactly.
but I saw that you put it up.
Yeah. So that's like the longest the video's ever taken me. I think like 17 days. And for me, it's like the opposite, right? My stuff isn't drawing; it's live eye. It's just me in front of a green screen. But like it takes me like 12, 13 days to get a script down. Because that's for me is like, as I like you with it's not my favorite part. It's like writing is hard for me. Like it's like I think it's what I was meant to do, and it's like what I'm very passionate about. But it's like, someone said this about rap. It's like you can't even like ascribe it to a love. It's more like a necessary calling, I guess. It's weird.
Yeah, no, that's true. I've had people I know in my personal life who are not artists. Oh, how do you draw, or something like that. Usually it's drawing.
Dude.
Yeah, how do you write a story? I have to. I just do.
Yeah.
If YouTube was shut down tomorrow and it was like, you can never upload videos anywhere, I'd still be making something.
Oh,
I can't
definitely
not do it.
Yeah.
I would feel so empty. I just like, I'm compelled. I'm compelled to do it.
And it's like, I don't even know. Like the stuff that like in the recent one, I like wrote an outro, and it was like what I thought this like really like smart like metaphor, but like I left it out, and it was like this thing. It was just like this super like ego jerking, like, oh, this is genius. Like, and I was just like, I can't keep this in because it wasn't even funny. It was like a minute long outro that kind of just like put this like little allegory for the whole thing, and I was like, I'm so smart, and I was like, but it's not what I am doing. It's like not the point.
Yeah, no, it's really hard to sort of cut something out that you like, but is completely irrelevant.
Yeah, it's the worst. And then you kind of like back to the perfection thing. I mean, this is the longest the video has ever taken me. The video is like wildly imperfect. I mean, it's I think my previous video was better, but like obviously every single one is going to be. I could go back and forth and like reshoot like 5 or 6 times, and it's just like. At some point,
or you could
like
pull a George Lucas and keep improving them and re-uploading them.
Yeah. But I think at some point, like, you lose like that rawness. It's no longer new enough to you that the passion is gone, in a sense.
Yeah, no, if I don't end up recording, if I write a script and I don't record it like that day or the next day, I start caring less.
Yeah.
I need to like basically write and record it in one go. And then if it takes me too long to draw it, I just stop giving a shit.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel like I've already started thinking of the next script and the next story.
Exactly.
And I just can't wait to get to that one. And so I lose focus on the one I'm on.
Yeah. I think, and it also like for me, like there's a lot of improv that goes into it. And if I know the script too well at that point, my mind is too rigid. I can't.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, you got to give yourself that permission to deviate from your plan because something in the moment just might seem so much better.
Oh my God, it's I like blow myself away sometimes, and it's like those are some of the best parts that come up just like randomly.
Yeah, when I'm recording a script, I will go off script. I will just ad-lib some things, and those oftentimes are the comment, "Oh, I really liked that."
It's
like the last video I just did.
The ending.
The last like minute or so. I wasn't reading a script. I was just talking.
The ending.
And I was like, oh, geez, I guess I should just keep that in.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like it fully makes sense, and I guess like I don't know our like Kendrick.
Kendrick Lamar,
the rapper. Yeah. Like him and Jay-Z, like they have this thing where like they don't read their lyrics when they're rapping. They like go off top, but they know the lyrics, but they essentially do the same thing. And they're like just reword as they're rapping, which sounds incredibly hard, but they're just like incredibly proficient rappers. So, but
well, it's kind of like telling a joke. you don't like not like a, you know, knock knock who's there kind of a joke, like any sort of anecdotal joke. You don't
Conversational.
remember it word for word. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's got, everyone's going to tell it a little different. You need to know the major points, you need to know the gist of it, and then you have to have this sort of ebb and flow that naturally gets you to the end. And as long as you tell it right for you, it will work.
Yeah. And I think back to what you said earlier about people asking, how do you draw? People always, one of my friends asked me, like, how do you like write a joke? And I'm like, how do you tell a joke in conversation? It's just, it comes up. So what I do is I have about 10 million conversations, and I get more muscle memory as to where like they come up generally. And I assume like when somebody asks you how to draw, you can just be like, you've drawn a stick figure. Just do that 10 million times. It'll get better. Like,
Yeah. I can't even draw a stick figure. Oh, come on. You can draw a stick figure. Would you forget how many arms and legs go on?
yeah. It's like,
You'll get there.
I mean, the one thing you could be absolute dog shit. The one thing it has to be for it to work is it just has to be mildly exciting, or else you're never going to fucking do it.
There are a lot of artists I like who are, in a sort of objective sense, not too good. To the, like, the average person would look at it and be like, I don't like that. But there's a truth to their work. They're very passionate about it. They love it. You can tell they pour themselves into it, and it really comes across well. You believe their excitement for it. Mm-hmm. And then you have things that are very polished, and like music, you listen to some music and it sounds too polished. It sounds wrong.
Too refined.
It's you know, like, oh, this is like
it reaches like a blandness.
Studio, corporate, filter. Like, we immediately have these words associated with it because we don't like it. We don't believe it.
Yeah, it's just like it's what we said earlier. It's like it's gone back and forth through the like machine too many times, and it's like not raw anymore. I
so I'd rather have something though. It's still like, oh, Tech Dave, you know, he doesn't have very good grasp of anatomy. Like, look, I'm drawing these really quick, and you're right. I'm not like a seasoned animator who has a perfect understanding of anatomy, and I do try to improve, but I'd rather get the thing done and have it be energetic, and I made this and I like it, and I'm going to the next panel. Yeah. Than have it be perfect. Because I've seen some comic art, which is essentially what I do, I guess, where it's so anatomically perfect, it essentially looks like tracings from photographs. Yeah. And I hate it. Yeah. It's so frozen and emotionless.
It's funny. Like, I remember when I like first started making comedy videos, and they were dog shit. Like the jokes were like, okay, I guess. But my friends, I remember one of my friends was like, dude, you should work on your camera angles and shit. I was like, that's like the least important thing right now. Like focus on your strengths, make everything else doable, just so you're getting shit. I mean, like, shit will improve naturally over time as you kind of realize, okay, this is too weak. I need to just improve this a little bit. And then you make tweaks. But like, I would say like the most important thing is what you should be focusing on every single time.
Yeah. I mean, all the people we watch online, I'm sure if you look at their early stuff, they weren't good, but you still liked them. Yeah. You like them now. And then you go back and you're like, wow, I can't believe I liked that stuff. Like, well, you liked it because there was something there you liked. Maybe not all of it. But maybe not their camera work or their audio quality, but there was something there where you're like, this is good enough for me to keep watching and see where it goes.
Who are some of the people who like influenced you, like as far as even drawing style and like just with the illustration?
Wow. Oh man. Okay, my influences largely anime, which is embarrassing as an artist.
It's incredibly common
liking
too.
Anime. Back in the day when I was like in high school, I read a lot of comic books, and I was really into a couple of artists like Mobius, the famous French comic artist, and other comic guys. And I was like, yeah, I want to draw like that. Very precise line work, lots of detail-oriented stuff, which is why I want to go into technical illustration to do that kind of thing professionally. Yeah. And then like story-wise, it was just kind of an assortment of, cartoons and anime and shit like that. But then by the time I started getting around to college, there were three guys who like kind of like a holy trinity, if you will, of online art. Three guys where I was like, wow, that's where I'm gonna draw my focuses from. Like I just knew these guys
Something else.
were right for me.
Yeah.
And that was guys called Mal, Locke, and Ray. And they all seemed to know each other and do art together.
Yeah.
Not like work on pieces together, but, you know, they kind of worked in the same circle. And Mal ended up becoming Brian Lee O'Malley, who made Scott Pilgrim and got wildly successful.
Yeah.
I mean, his art now looks nothing like it did then, but but he was doing, you know, stuff that was kind of like derivative of manga. Then there was Locke, who did, again, more manga-inspired stuff, but really precise buildings and machinery, like all the non-human stuff I loved.
Yeah.
And and Ray, who is Corey S. Lewis, who does Shark Knife and Peng and other comics and graphic novels, which was very anime-y, but in a loose, energetic kind of a style, a very sort of, you know, home-drawn comic book kind of a style that I loved.
Yeah.
And as time went on, obviously I drew from other inspirations, but those three guys at the time, when I started making my own things, that was where I kind of saw myself going. And I mean, now, oh, geez, they're doing totally different things. And so am I, really.
Yeah.
The things I want aren't the same at all. But that's where I sort of started focusing. Those three guys and things like them. And art-wise now, I don't really think I have influences per se.
I feel like for me,
I don't think there's anything now where I'm like, oh, I wish I were like.
I feel like for me, it's almost like unconscious stuff. Like I don't watch as many people as I used to, and like I'll go through like a binge of like one comedian. Like one person I'm watching a lot now of is Sam Hyde, and just like I'll like.
Man.
I'll notice. I'll grab just like a little. What I'll do is I'll like just grab like kind of like a joke that he's done, and like, you know, obviously remodel it and skew it in my own way. Just like unconsciously, and then I'm like, oh shit, this is like a Sam Hyde bit. Like I can't do this. But then I guess somehow unconsciously something remains that started out as like a little thing. So I think little bits seep in.
Sure.
So I think for you back when you were in high school, anime culture was not what it is today. Like were you like,
good God, no.
Only one reading like manga and shit?
Dude, no. It like, yeah, it was a lot more niche.
Yeah.
It didn't have the same stigma or accessibility. Because keep in mind, when I was in high school, it was, I got into high school in 1999. We're talking about a totally different era from now.
Yeah.
Where anime is everywhere and lots of people are super, 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 super into it. And a lot of people flat out hate it. Like this sort of like bias, like, oh, I like anime. Wow, fucking kill yourself.
You're a fucking nerd.
Just jump off a bridge. Yeah, back when I was in high school, it was, you know, the internet was around. Obviously, you could find things, but it was a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to find whole series. You had to like know a guy. You had to know a store to go to. Now you can't go anywhere without bumping into this shit. They have it at Chapters or Indigo or whatever the fuck you call it in the States.
I don't
know. Big bookstores, right?
Okay,
big popular bookstores. They have a whole manga section.
Yeah. Basically.
So I was one of the only people I knew that liked anime and didn't make it my whole life.
Good for you. Proud.
You know, I didn't need to let everyone know all the time. Hey, my name's Dave. By the way, I fucking love anime.
I mean, or just, you know, wear like cosplay 24/7, just walk around.
Yeah, I never did that.
So
I was not a weeb. My fiance was a weeb.
Really?
Oh yeah, I tease her for it, but I love her.
Yeah, I think you just went to Japan recently, right?
Yeah. She'd always wanted to go to Japan. I had been to Japan for a week because I was in Korea and it's nearby. But now it was like, oh, we're engaged. Let's go to 2 weeks in Japan, and it was phenomenal. We did all the nerdy anime touristy things we could think of.
How does it like change your perspective being actually in Japan as opposed to just reading the culture?
Well, I mean, if you're expecting it to be like an anime, you're out of hell because it's real life, and over there it's just, well, those are just cartoons and comics. It'd be like someone here expecting real life to be like cartoons and comic books. You'd be like, dude, get a fucking life.
I just love the Filthy Frank Weeaboos episode where he's like, weebs go to Japan and be like, where are the subtitles?
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
You know, it's business people going to work like just everywhere all the time. It's really cool. It's really modern and exciting, and they have the traditional stuff, and that's cool, and everything's great. Everything's phenomenal. I loved every part of it, but it is not like a weeb's wet dream. It is not that. I loved it for other reasons.
Yeah, I'm reading this book right now by Murakami. I don't know if you know. He's a Japanese author.
I know the name.
He's like I'm not much of a comic book guy. I'm much more of like a book person.
Yeah,
but it's just like he's just like you could tell there's like quite a bit of like, I wouldn't even say anime influence. I just say like Japanese culture, because like spirits and like weird like talking animals and shit like that, right? Like just like strange shit that like, I don't know. Now you find it in America, but it's only because of like Japanese culture kind of pervaded it completely, right?
Yeah. I mean, you know, people sort of forget that the pop culture of the 80s and 90s was entirely built upon it. And I mean, anime was entirely built on old American cartoons and shit like that. But it had, you know, certain influences. Like when I was in the 90s, you turn on Saturday morning cartoons, which is a thing that used to exist. And it would be, you know, Dragon Ball, Pokemon, Digimon. It was all anime. And there was a point where I was like, wow, are there any like American-made cartoons left?
Yeah.
At all? And in the 80s too, there were all sorts of cartoons that were American, but they were made in Japan or had heavy Japanese influence. Didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
And then you'd see the occasional cartoon like, you know, like Astro Boy or some shit. Well, maybe not Astro Boy.
I think the ones that are more like comedically inclined are, you know, American. Like,
and you'd see something and you're like, something's weird about this one. Yeah. Like the mouths don't move right. I don't know. It's something weird about it. Like you wouldn't really understand the idea of like anime versus cartoons.
Yeah.
And now, like shit, they're almost the same thing.
Yeah, there's just a ton of back and forth on the influence. Like you'll find kids who are influenced by like Courage the Cowardly Dog, and then like this fucking anime out the ass as well.
My favorite anime is obviously Cory of the House.
Fantastic meme. But I've seen like very few anime. The culture is hard. It's like
yeah. You know, I agree. You know, I go to conventions and stuff, and there's lots of things where I'm like, I don't get it. Why do you care? So that's kind of how I know I'm old.
I don't know about old. I think kids in any fandom suck a lot. Like it's just they're like, because they haven't found themselves yet. So like this person is like a what is it?
It's a substitute for personality.
Exactly. I mean, like, it was like me with Odd Future in high school. Like, you know, you talked shit about Tyler. I was heated. I couldn't.
I don't know what Odd Future is.
Rap group that came up back when I was in high school, which is like 4 or 5 years ago. So he just dropped an album. They're still like pretty relevant. You know Frank Ocean?
The name.
Okay, he's a singer. If you know rap culture or anything, you would know. But I assume.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, I don't know rap culture.
Well,
excuse me.
Every single like when I have a lot of just artists on, like 99% of the names just fly right by me because I'm just like, shit.
Right, sure, that anime.
I need to do more. I'm always like, when I get off, I'm like, because I write down the names and I'm just like, I should look this person. I'd never do it. It's just.
But you make the effort.
I know.
I should do it.
Yeah, it's the thought that counts. I mean,
it's
right?
the thought.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, more of my influence like comedians than artists.
So, like, I mean, so what you're saying is like the writing is more malleable in that sense.
Yeah, like when I sit down to write something, I'm probably thinking more about how it's written and how it's told and how it sounds than what I'm going to draw or how it should look.
So with the drawing, is it so you have the audio presumably of first, right?
Yeah, I do the script, then I record it, then I edit it.
Yeah.
And then so I'll cut down and be like, oh, that needs a picture, and I'll listen and be like, oh, that needs a picture, that needs a picture. Like I'll do the audio and see
making
what
little markers.
The beats are, what needs a joke, what needs a funny picture with it, or just how long it's been since the last picture change.
Okay. And are you going through and are you like, so you have the final audio and you have kind of like a rough idea. When you go up to draw, are you boarding first or do you just have like, you're just like, okay.
I just go right into it.
And just.
I listen to the audio. I make a checklist. My storyboard is like a checklist.
Yeah.
And it'll be panel 1, walking into building. Panel 2, teacher hitting Dave in face. And then, you know, like just because I know where it associates with the, since I'm the only one working on the video.
Yeah.
And then as I draw, I sort of make up, like sometimes I'll think about it. I'll kind of know what I want that to look like. And I'll remember when I go to draw it. Because I don't feel like doing thumbnails. And then when I go to draw it, however it comes out is how it comes out.
Yeah. Do you ever face like perfectionism within the drawing, or are you kind of at a point?
Yeah, sometimes I'll find myself working way too long on a panel. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? This is going to be on screen for half a second.
Yeah. I've found myself doing the same thing. Like even with this podcast, like I don't edit the audio very much. I like fix it up and make sure it sounds good, but like I won't cut shit. But the thumbnails, I will sit and like move around text on the thumbnail. I'm like, I've been working on this for like an extra hour. Like, what am I doing with myself? And the thing is, like, I will find it very hard to put it away. I'm like, this is not that, it's not that serious. And I have to like hammer that into my head.
No, you need the thumbnail. That's how you get people. The algorithm, man. You got to fight the algorithm.
I'll literally, I had Ackroyd on and like, I had 2 versions of the thumbnail and one was just his name was moved slightly over. And I was like distraught. Like I was like, it was so ridiculous. And I like a day later, I was like, I'm a psychopath. I need to stop. Like it's just like, because once you upload, you don't give a fuck.
We get attached to.
Yeah, it's insane. What
like there's things in episodes that I'll worry about with the art, and no one's gonna know but me.
I think it's
no
positive.
One but
it's
me
positive
will
and negative because like. Yeah. There's things that I want to include that most people won't notice just for me, right? Because at the end of the day, like you said, if YouTube shut down, we're still making content. You know, these videos aren't necessarily for other people. It's because we need to do it. But
yeah,
there's you have to draw a line between good enough and whatever the fuck else.
Yeah.
Totally. I think it's a good thing that it's painful every time. You know, like because or else it's. Or else it's like, because I mean, if I feel like if I was at a point where I could just be like, nah, it's fuck, it's whatever, and just like apathy towards my work, you know. I
guess that's true. Yeah, it kind of lets you know you still give a shit.
Yeah, which is it's pros and cons of perfectionism, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, a lot of people have asked over the years, like, when will you stop making Technical Dave? And like I said, I plan to do all of college. But if there was ever a point in my life where I'm like, I hate doing this, I would stop.
Yeah.
I never want to force myself to do it because then, well, first of all, I'm doing things I hate. And second of all, it's not going to come out good anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. Have you ever, because I've found myself at points like that with my art, but then it's kind of just like a beacon, like I need to change a couple things around.
Yeah. I mean, don't get, dissuaded too easily. Obviously, a change is necessary once in a while. It's like a little vacation for your mind. Yeah. I'm not saying that if I'm like, oh, this sucks, I'll give up, and no one should do that.
No.
But if it's clear, if it's persistent that it's not making me happy, then you should stop. And you have to change things anyway. Otherwise, you'll just fade away.
Do you find yourself ever like going into it like, I'm gonna fucking draw a little bit differently this time. I'm gonna do the art in a weird way?
Actually, sometimes. My changes are never very extreme, though. I'm just that kind of a person. Mm. And honestly, I'd be worried about like alienating people.
Yeah.
So like, I've done minor changes in episodes and have people like, what the fuck is this?
Really? Like what?
Yeah. Like the way I colored once was different.
And people like freaked out about it?
Yeah. There was another one. Was it... I forget. There's been a couple of comedy changes where it's like the way the narrative is done.
Yeah. Approached it.
Or I change my voice, or I have a guest on, and people just don't get it.
Yeah. I like the guest speakers.
I like them too. I think if it were just me all the time, I think that would be kind of, what's the word? Not disingenuous. It wouldn't give a sort of a broader scope to what this could be like. And I know it in, like I had 2 guest speakers on, and one of them I wrote the script for, and people were like, I can't believe you're saying these things. Like I'm not. Like, I don't know if you know the episode. I had Harmful Opinions on.
I saw that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I love his voice. One day I got to do a video. It was his voice. He's a phenomenal voice. Regardless of what you think of him, it's great.
Yeah.
So I told him, hey, one day can I write a script and have you read it, or if you have a script? He's like, no, just send me something when you can. Mm. So I was like, oh, okay. Wouldn't it be hilarious if there was a guest speaker who came to a school to give a pep talk, and basically all he's saying is like, look, just please stop fucking sending me garbage.
Don't be shit. Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's not there to tell the students how to make better art. He's just, as an art director, he's just like, I'm here for me. I'm here to ask you to please stop making shitty art and sending it to me.
I like that video a lot.
Yeah, I thought that was a funny idea. And I was like, well, I can't do me giving that speech, because then it sounds like I, Dave Razi, am being that person.
Yeah.
Like just telling students to stop making bad art. So I need a guest voice. It needs to be someone else saying it, so it's understood that character, this is not what I am endorsing. It's just a funny idea.
I honestly thought that when you upload, I thought that was a like legitimate teacher that you knew, just like giving his 2 cents, like stop sucking.
No, my old teachers have told me, like, I've been to school functions since I've been out of school, and I've been doing this, and they were like, well, they're funny and everything, but please don't mention me by name. You can get me in trouble. I'm like, yeah, don't worry. I understand school politics. I'm not going to like incriminate any of you.
That's funny. Do you ever?
Well, it can happen.
Yeah.
Like getting shit over something. Oh, I can't believe you would. Whatever, like, hey, that was a decade ago. Doesn't matter.
That's It's kind of, school is just an insane place. I like the one. Do you ever find yourself coming back to like an overarching message that you like almost find yourself repeating, a theme that you find pops up in a lot of videos?
Definitely a theme would sort of be, the sort of give it your best shot, be who you are. That's sort of unintentional. I mean, that's just going to kind of be part of these motivational things. Here's my mistakes. Please don't make my mistakes.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you're just telling your life, and like the values that you held will seep through.
I mean, that's generally what anyone talking about their life is, right? Here's what I did. Here's why it's interesting, or here's why you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Do this, don't do that. If there's any other message I'm conveying, I'm not sure I can think of it. Not intentionally, anyway.
I think just by fact of you talking about art school or just college in general, I think there's just like a distrust for like the business side of.
This is true. I mean, people sort of forget that, right? It's education. I'm owed it or something. Like, it's a business. Yeah. It is a business. The school exists to make money, which is fine. They make that, they get your money, you get an education, win-win, until there starts being a problem.
Yeah.
Like with the electives, all these electives that they want you to take, and they don't want you to take them because they think it'll give you a good education. They want you to take them. Students have requested them. So like, students want them because they think it'll give them a good education. Like, students fucking have any idea what awaits them in the career they're looking for. Oftentimes they don't. They have no idea what they need. Or it'll be politically expedient, which does not give you a good education.
No.
Or it'll get you employed right out of college, but it won't help long term.
Yeah.
There's all these little things that students don't think about and companies don't give a shit about.
Yeah. I mean.
So yeah, there's a sort of animosity with the way the system is run. And I'm not saying I know how to fix this. I'm just saying, these things happen to me and you should expect them.
I think it's even crazy that like you even went to like an art school that was like defined as an art school, and you still like, I went to a public university, and that's like, we have all these like ridiculous math. Like I remember talking with my advisor, and I was like, what is the easiest math and science class? Like for the stupid kids, like that I can just go to and bullshit. I remember going, it was so ridiculous. Like, we were learning scientific notation, and like, I wasn't even a bad math student. I was like pretty good at it. And I was just like, this is like before 9th grade shit. How does this, why? Like, it's just like such a genuine waste.
Yeah. There's lots of things that just didn't need to be there once. There was one time I was in 4th year, and me and some other 4th years were giving a little pep talk to the 1st years. One of the teachers said, hey, you, come to my class, just tell them what to expect for whatever reason. I forget the specifics of it, but we were talking about electives classes. Somehow those came up. And there was this guy I fucking hated. He was a piece of shit. And he wasn't even a very good artist. Like, he was as bad as I was.
Just to hammer it home.
And I wasn't very good. And, but I wasn't smug about it. That's the difference.
Yeah.
So we were talking about electives classes. And I was saying, like, these things don't matter because they're things you can do on your own time. They're neat. They're cool. But you're spending like $60 an hour to take them.
Yeah.
Or whatever the hell it was at the time. So, because I can get out somewhere recently around then, it was something like $60 an hour every time you're in class.
Yeah.
That adds up.
Most definitely.
So, before you take this class, and at the time I was taking a mythology class. Mythology class. I like mythology. Mythology's fucking cool. But it has nothing to do with an illustration career. I want to be taught the objective things.
Yeah.
All that the research free. I'll do. And this other guy was like, well, you're in technical illustration. You don't know. You guys don't reference. If you were like a real artist like us interpretive illustrators, and like I almost fucking hit him in the face. Like I was just so angry. Like, I have no what you're talking about. Like on technical, have inspiration or things like that. Well, us real artists, we need to research other things. Like, no. I think you can do that on your own time still. When you're in class paying money, a teacher telling you, well, back in ancient Greece, they believed in gods. Fucking shit. I can get that on Wikipedia. I can read that in a book. How about you help me create better art?
Yeah.
How about you critique my work? How about you teach me how to do better brushstrokes and paint mixing and all that shit,
It's funny that whenever
I can't learn on my own.
Whenever anybody like divides real art from fake art, it's like you've already invalidated your own opinion, which is surprising. It's just like, they try to invalidate you as fake art, but as soon as you do that, you're just like, you're an idiot. Like, just stop. It's like
technical is like medical drawings, architectural drawings. Basically, it could be right or wrong. It was technical. Right? You can't do an anatomical drawing and just decide to draw the arteries around the heart differently because it'll get killed. So that was all technical stuff, which is what we did. And there was this sort of idea that that stuff's not really art.
I mean,
it's drawings, it's paintings, but I mean, there's no emotion there, so it doesn't count.
I mean, I would just be like, what Da Vinci? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, these
you
people
got to understand how the world works. That is like all part of art, isn't it? Like, you guys use that to do your art.
Yeah.
There was kind of an elitism there in that divide. Not all of the interpretive kids looked down on us because there were 3 classes of interpretive. So, and there was only 15 technical students and only 13 by the time graduation rolled around. Yeah, very few of us. And they really were, by and large, dismissive of us and the people who ran administration as a whole. And they ended up phasing it out, actually, and having all the interpretive kids learn technical stuff and just doing away with technical entirely. I mean, medical drawings, architectural drawings, we'll just teach CAD to the interpretive kids, and that's good enough.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of makes sense. I think interpretive kids should have foundation like that. I think it's definitely important.
Oh, of course. But I mean, if you really want to get good at one of these things, you got to focus on it. You can't do everything. Yeah, exactly. So they wanted kids to do everything.
It's definitely a shame because I've seen that, especially at my school. Like, kids with such a wide berth, they're like, I want to do comedy and fucking do tragedy and like drama. Like, I want to make my film can be ever. I'm just like, nah. Like, you're hitting surface level like on the entire lake, bro. I want like a puddle that goes 30 feet deep.
Yeah. And I've had people say, they want that broad education. The schools definitely want that broad education because then they can say you're more employable and that makes them look good.
Yeah.
But the students are like, give us that really broad education. Might not really help you. You got to focus on something and get good at that and try to get employed in that. And I understand it's really hard to ask an 18-year-old going into college to know their. That's fucking hard. You only have a couple of years to learn and get good at something. really, really hard on what it is and then do it rather than dive and just change it. Like, marriage is a good thing. It bonds people and all that. That's great. But don't go into a marriage thinking, well, if it doesn't work out, I'll just get divorced.
Yeah.
Maybe, work really hard and wait for the right one. Like, well, then we'll have fewer people getting married. Yeah, but the people that get married will stay together and be happier longer.
Most definitely. I mean, when I think about marriage, I'm like, fuck, like that's life. Like that's forever. Like, I mean, like, yeah, there's like a chance, but there's no, like, I don't know. Even with like comedy, it was like, once I kind of put my chips down, I was like, all right, like if I lose this, that's kind of a life-threatening loss. That's a lot. Like,
but that's good because now you're so invested in it.
It makes it there's a certain beauty and calmness about it. Like, of course you have doubt because you've literally burned every other bridge, but like there's a certain certain calmness that comes, and like this unmistakable drive where it's like, okay, I can't really turn around anymore. Like I've kind of lost that privilege. So
yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
That'll count.
You've told
some resolve.
You said
you don't want to go into it thinking, well, whatever. We'll try it for a couple years and then maybe they'll do something else. Yeah. Oh, those are the best comedians. Let me tell you.
Yeah, exactly. So like, you said back when you were in school, when you were just telling the story about electives, that you said you didn't consider yourself a good artist. What do you consider? Like, do you consider yourself good now? How do you kind of think about your own work? No,
I don't. I never want people to think that I think I'm hot shit. I'm a mediocre at best artist. I'm better than your average Joe walking down the street because, of course, they all say they can't draw stick figures.
Yeah.
But as far as artists go, I'm not very good. I'm just good enough to sort of tell my story, and I plan on always trying to get better. Right? I guess that's part of it. If you think you're good, you'll be like, well, this is good enough. I'm not good enough.
You know what's funny? I go back and forth. I think I'll be like, oh, I'm fucking nice, because like I think a little bit of ego is fine. I think being like, oh shit.
Oh, sure. I'm not saying never appreciate yourself.
Yeah. Do you feel like you go back and forth, or do you feel like I'm just like consistently mediocre?
I feel there are glimmers of times where I appreciate myself, but it's usually not for my drawing skill. It'll usually be for, I guess, the other aspects.
Okay.
There'll be times where I think I'm like, man, I'm a good writer.
Yeah.
There'll be times where I think, hey, I'm a pretty decent voiceover guy.
I mean, but, you've also you've dropped the most time by far, presumably, into drawing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is, so where would you say, like, we just talked about focusing deeply. Where would you say your skill set is the most refined, the best?
Well, I get told I'm really good at color. And I used to think I was a really good line artist, not necessarily digitally, but when we're talking like pen on paper, I can rock that shit, man.
Yeah.
So I was really good at color theory and inking.
Okay.
I guess I'm a little more. I'm better conceptually than I am with. And I've been told I'm a good storyboardist by a couple of people who know a thing or two about that. I always thought my storyboarding was pretty average, I guess.
I'm surprised.
I've been told I'm good by people who I trust to know what good is.
Yeah.
It's important to sort of recognize, to rely on other people a little bit like that.
Definitely. I think what was surprising to me was because I almost had a hunch that you just did it on the go from the way you were talking about it, but like it's surprising because it does look like you definitely have an eye for composition beyond like just a person being like, all right, let me just fucking throw some shit up and be like, hey. There's definitely like that natural spacing, like,
Oh, thanks.
Don't know how to put it better.
I mean, I'm sure it gets sloppier by the end of an episode because I generally illustrate in order.
Yeah.
Just so I know I don't miss anything.
Definitely.
And I'm certain that if you really looked at the composition at the end of an episode, it would be a little sloppier because it's like, let's just get this fucking thing done. Come on.
It's funny. There's like, it's a proven fact that we're like more motivated in the morning. Like that's why they say do the most important shit in the morning. But there's like
much prefer to do shit in the morning.
There was a statistic they went through like judges in Italy or something, and they saw for the same crimes, judges sentenced people far more to jail time at 4 p.m. than they did at 9 p.m. for the same exact crimes. and that shit
Wow.
held over everywhere. And they were like, if you are getting a court date, try and do it before the judge eats lunch, because after that he's gonna be tired and he's gonna be less forgiving. Like, because at that point they're just like, I don't want to fucking hit the hammer, you know?
Man, I feel like I can get more done in an hour of morning than the whole afternoon.
Yeah.
Like at work, especially. I can hammer shit out so well in the morning in those like 2 hours when I first get there.
Yeah.
And artistically, I'm not like a morning person, but Saturday morning and Sunday morning, I'm like, okay, that's when I'm doing art.
Yeah.
In the evening, get anything done.
I used to be like a night person back when I didn't get shit done. Like if I hit like noon and I don't have a lot done, it's like no matter how much I do the rest of the day, it'll feel like I'm reaching, because it's like I don't feel like I got, because I don't know, it's like that those good few hours, like they can be so ridiculously productive.
Oh yeah, there's been times where I'll hit like 4 o'clock and I'm like, nope, we're done for the day. Pack it up.
Yeah.
If I try to do art, I'm gonna wait hours of time. Warrior, forget it. This is it. We're moving on. We're calling it a day.
I just try to find like the more menial tasks for later on, like editing or like some shit like that.
Yeah, things that you can sort of do without thinking.
Exactly. Just so end of the day, when you kind of go through, I mean, so you're making art about art, and especially art about art being fucking painful, which is like it's pretty meta, bro. Like, just when you're going through like a story about you like doing a hard project, and you're making a project about a project, right? Do you feel like, I don't know, like almost like PTSD reflections, like, oh shit, like kind of like almost like a growth of that struggle because I mean art is hard regardless of what you're working on, if you're trying to make it the best it can be, right? So
yeah, it should be.
So does it, because I know for me like art is always a different struggle, but if you're making an art piece about an art piece, does that old struggle kind of come to light and like just almost come to life in a different way, I guess?
Sometimes it's on a personal life that I end up thinking about. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I will remember a project.
Yeah.
Like okay, when I did my portfolio, my big portfolio piece, it was a lot to get into illustration. It was a lot of drawing, a lot of inking, some painting, but it was a lot of just work in general. And I remember making every piece. Like if I stop and I think I can remember, and actually I went through it, getting some shit out of storage, and I found my old portfolio case and I was flipping through. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember making that like vividly.
Yeah.
But no, that's not what I was thinking about when I was making the video. What I was really thinking about was that when I was making my portfolio, this very important collection of works, my parents were splitting up. And that is all I could really think about. How I was feeling at work. I ended up being like the best of things, and how things were around the house, and emotionally how this was affecting me. That's all I could really think about making that. That's like what I ended up remembering, even though that wasn't really part of the project. That became the big struggle of the project, was getting this done in time and not having my personal life interfere. Because making it through college, man, your personal life is always going to fucking interfere.
Oh yeah, completely. I think even with art now, I find like the hardest part is like I'm a super anxious person when it gets down to it. Like that's my personal struggle. Like some people have, depression or whatever. Like I'm like high strung. It's just fear pervades me. So like what I find to be the hardest part is if I'm super anxious and fearful of something, like just almost like you literally have to ignore it and just like work on the art and just like not let it paralyze you. Because what I think a lot of people do is they'll let their personal life take over and the art will go on pause until it eventually dissipates and fades away or becomes less poignant. And
yeah, no, I can get that. There are times where there's so much to do that you can't do anything, which only makes the problem worse because you're, like you said, you're like paralyzed with fear or anxiety. And I have anxiety problems. I've always had them my whole life, but they over the last couple of years have been different. So it's taken some getting used to.
You know what's funny? The same thing happened to me recently. I used to, when I was like 19, I started getting like panic attacks, and the ones I used to get were like heart beating super fast, panicky, like high energy, like hands tingling and shaking. And then I got used to that, and I like got over it pretty quickly. And I was like, okay, I get this. And then recently, dead calm, I was like having trouble breathing, and I was like really calm, didn't know what was wrong. I thought it was like a medical thing for a bit. And then I was like, I asked my dad, and he used to get the same thing. And it was like,
well, that's a type of comforting.
Yeah, it is. I think it was just like, it's just like a different kind of panic attack, but I didn't know how to deal with it because before it was like the issue was getting calm again and slowing my heart rate down. But now it's like I'm calm, but for some reason I can't breathe very well, and I'm like, and it's just like a new fucking, it's like the anxiety evolves as you do, I guess. And
yeah, it's like your anxiety couldn't tackle you one way, so it tries a new tactic, and you gotta be like, I don't think so.
or buckle down and be like, you got me. All right, I give up. Life is over.
Yeah, I mean, when I have anxiety attacks, it's always dizziness.
Okay.
And this happened for years, and I always thought, like, from as young as I was like 11, I was always a nervous, kind of high-strung kid. Actually, I have a psychological, like, geez, I don't know, 7, 8 years old, something like that. And the doctor, like, my mom was like, oh, I'm kind of worried about him. So she took me down, got me tested, and the doctor's like, well, he's very smart and super nervous.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks a lot. So, I mean, teachers have always told me I'm pretty bright, but I'm just smart enough to know how everything sucks.
Yeah.
And then you get like
the cynical,
but
mindset.
Not smart enough to be able to see past it, you know? So you end up having like anxiety problems, or at least that's, I think, where a lot of mine came from. So I would overanalyze things and get really super worried. And so I'd start having vertigo, where all of a sudden I'm like kind of nervous. And then pow, just like that, my vision distorts and I'm super dizzy, like instantly, very, very, very dizzy.
Yeah.
And these could last for days.
That's insane.
Like the initial attack would last maybe like an hour or two, but then I wouldn't regain my sense of balance completely for another couple of days.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a medical thing. I thought it was an inner, sure. And it wasn't until years later, only about 5 or 6 years ago, when I'm a grown man, I noticed that it always took place. It took me this fucking long. But like this thing, because I was like resolved, like, oh, it's a medical thing. But it wasn't until recently I was like, holy shit, this only happens after a moment of stress.
Yeah.
Like it'll happen on a Friday almost always, because at the end of a really intense week, my body's like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. So even though the stress is over, that's when it decides to hit me. And it would affect me a lot in college.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten around to talking about that yet, but it's coming up where it would affect my school life. And I'd be like, can I even do this? And once I realized it was just anxiety, I was able to sort of maintain it.
That was
and then a couple of years ago, it became less dizziness and more about like tunnel vision.
Yeah. I think that was like the most liberating part for me, especially in the beginning, to understand that this was anxiety. And the key thing for me, that it can't fucking kill you. Like, it's just like the biggest sigh. But like for me, as I said, I have nickel dermatitis. So like when I touch nickel for like 5 minutes, my fucking face will start to swell, and like my sinuses swell up. So
oh geez,
when I couldn't breathe, I was like, it would always happen recently as the nickel dermatitis came, because that's a recent thing for me. So
okay, so you're like, oh shit, am I gonna suffocate?
Yeah, and I thought, because I looked it up, and of course I looked it up, right? But like, there's like allergic asthma is something you could pick up from nickel. And I was like, oh, what? My lungs hurt. What? Like, and then I was at my internist recently, and he checked me for wheezing, and because I was just there for a different reason.
Sure.
But he was like, yeah, do you have trouble breathing right now? I'll just check you, see if you're wheezing. I was like, no, I'm not wheezing. And then he was like, okay. And then I was kind of like, afterwards, I asked my dad, because I remember he told me his chest used to get tight, and I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense, because it was never like I could, like, if I laid down and, like, you know, got the breaths, I could get the breaths. But it was, like, more of, like, if you're not conscious. But one thing that I like a lot about it, and it's kind of weird. I mean, I think you can probably find the same
One thing
thing.
I like a lot about having anxiety.
It offers, like, beautiful perspective. I mean, when I'm super stressed, that's when I'll get it. And once it's over, you're like, that shit is not important. I just felt like I was gonna die. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true.
I mean, I like.
And certain things do have a way of not mattering after you look back on them. And you're like, oh wow,
What was I tripping?
all right.
About? I mean, I think it's all a thing of getting out of your head and into your body, right, into the moment. So, it's.
Yeah, I think a lot of college kids obviously deal with anxiety problems, things that we perhaps realize these days are more anxiety related than other things. Like, oh, well, they've got this problem or that problem. Like, oh, you're having a panic attack, bro.
It's
Also,
insane.
I think people these days are more inclined to have anxiety attacks because they're dealing with things that perhaps they weren't ready to.
I think it's like I think so many people are like uneducated and they jump to conclusions so quickly. And I used to be like that. I like one thing that helped me immensely was just like exercise, like regular exercise, because you like you need to get, if you're too in your head, and especially for artists, if you're sitting down all day and you're still like, your body's like craving release. Like it like that's why you're fucking shaking, bro. Like you need to fucking move. Like
I absolutely had more problems with anxiety after I got a desk job.
yeah.
When I'm just sitting in front of a desk and you're like alone with your thoughts and you start over analyzing and over worrying, and you're just you're sitting cramped at this little desk and your body's not moving at all except for your fingers, and your head's just going fucking nuts.
And
takes a lot of getting used to.
One thing people need to realize is like we're like hunter gatherers at heart. We used to like our bodies aren't designed for desk jobs. Like we were supposed to be fucking killing.
No,
things.
this is a very recent development in our biology.
Yeah, like we're supposed to be fucking jumping around, and like we have all this energy for a goddamn reason. And like I don't know. It's definitely getting worse, especially like the lack of knowledge and the prevalence of drugs is insane.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would be a lot happier if they just got their blood pumping once in a while.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, I even found, especially in the beginning, I like got one of my first panic attacks coming home from the gym. And like, it was stigmatized for me after that for a little bit. And I was super scared.
Yeah.
But when I got back, it was like the same feeling came up, but it was like, it made sense because that feeling needed to get out and it was going to get out one way or another. But if I could get it out in a controlled environment, that helped it. And then the fear associated with that physiological feeling dissipated, and I was like, oh, this is just what my body's feels like when it needs to get a fucking pump on or something, right? Like so
I have fewer panic attacks when I'm sleep deprived because I'm just too fucking tired to worry about anything.
I think I might be this. I think actually I don't know, because when I'm sleep deprived I'm on coffee. It's just it might as well be IV dripping into my blood because. And I think with just the heart like pumping super hard, it's just like that adds to it for me. And just like, I don't know, it's a balance. Like if I'm not drinking coffee for sure, but I think coffee might just be, the other side.
Yeah. I used to drink 4 coffees a day, but I tried cutting back sort of around when I noticed my anxiety, changing form. And that didn't really help because I think I was thinking too much about what I could do to adjust my anxiety. Like, oh, I got to stop doing this and stop doing that. And then maybe, like that ain't fucking helping, man.
I think it's like people search outside for something that is within you. Like,
yeah,
that's what, did you find when your anxiety changed form? It was almost like, because, as we said, you beat one level, the next level is a little bit harder, a little bit different, obviously. Did you find that your life almost synced up with that? Like, right when significant transitions happened in your life?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is when I came back from teaching in Korea.
You taught in Korea? For how long? You taught in Korea?
I did for a year. It was awesome.
What'd you teach? Illustration?
No, English.
Oh, shit. That's super cool. But go on.
It was just like I knew it was something I wanted to do, and the harder it's going to be. They're not going to take anyone who's 40 with kids just like, hey, I want to teach for the first time.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I was like, well, I really want to do it. I have nothing really tying me down here. I didn't have like a job with like, 401k or some shit
Yeah.
or whatever. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go do it now while I can. And I went with my my then girlfriend. And when I got back, so I had no job. We broke up. So I had no relationship. I had no career prospects. And like we were supposed to come back and move in together downtown.
Yeah.
And so like all that was gone. And I had no fucking idea what I was doing with my life. And that's when it happened, right? Because just this amazing uncertainty all at once was, I guess, just too much for me at the time.
Yeah. And you know what's always funny with that shit and why I do not, I just don't trust it anymore, is when shit is going super well. Because it's always calmest before the storm. And I'm just like, now when shit's going, I'm just like, I expect shit to fucking go awry. Like, I'm just like, oh. I don't expect it to the point where I'm bringing it on or stimulating it, but I'm
like it's gonna happen. Who cares? Why ever be happy?
Yeah,
if you're just happy, it's just gonna get taken away.
I'm just like shit is going well right now. If shit, I'm not shocked anymore if it'll go.
Yeah, it's good to be cautious, let's say,
or just don't bank on happiness lasting.
Yeah,
which is the
it's
worst
all
thing
gonna
to
work
say
out.
ever.
Everything's great.
Yeah. It's just depressing, but I guess that's kind of like something. Do you ever like find in Technical Dave, and we'll wrap up in a minute. Do you ever find in Technical Dave that you're like almost being too negative? Do you ever get on yourself about that, or not really?
Yeah, sometimes I'll worry that I'm like, oh man, I've had like 5 episodes in a row where all like rag on shit. Maybe I should try and liven it up a bit.
This is the family-friendly Technical Dave episode.
Yeah, ooh, everything's good. Your teachers love you.
You're gonna be a famous
Yeah, no,
artist.
it totally happens where I worry about that. Because, I mean, obviously that's kind of my thing in a way. Like, I don't think anyone shows up to watch a Tech Dave video and expects to feel, lovey-dovey and all that by the end of it. It happens occasionally, like with the Disengage video.
Yeah,
but that's not, I think, what anyone's really expecting. So I kind of give myself permission to be a little overly negative, knowing that occasionally I'll dial it back.
I think there's just even with all the negativity, if you look a little bit deeper, right, there's negativity all over the surface, but this kid is still going to art school. He's still banging out. Like, there's a theme of perseverance that's just like almost more motivating than just like, oh, you can do it. Like, it's like, no, shit might be fucking hard and it might slap you in the fucking face, but like, you're just going to buckle your teeth and get it done.
You got to buckle your pants, man.
Exactly. And
yeah, I don't think anyone who's really, I've had a few comment like, oh, this guy's like, or he thinks a lot of himself or something like that. And I'm like, man, you weren't really paying attention, were you?
Yeah.
Although I do get some, I fucking love getting angry comments because I've very rarely gotten an angry comment. Not a mean comment like the art sucks.
Yeah.
I mean like an angry comment that really made sense. They're always amusing.
Yeah, it's funny because like it's such clear projection and you can see it. It's so on the face and you're just like, you want to tap this dude on the shoulder, be like, you see what you wrote? You're talking about you. Like it's ridiculously funny. I mean, you see it just on Twitter because like just life and politics are heated. People are just screaming and yelling. You're just like, it's just shh, be quiet. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, people are getting, in all aspects of life, way too angry for shit they're not even directly involved.
Yeah, I think it has good intentions, but I think it really bad execution.
Yeah, I try to not let myself get overly wrapped up.
I think it's the thing we were saying with fandoms before.
It's a sick form of entertainment, though. Sometimes.
Most definitely. I think it's the same thing with fandoms. People get too into a cultish mentality and just can't see fucking outside of it. Well, we've been going for a while, so I will wrap this up.
How long have we been going? Oh my god, it's woo! We've been rambling, boy.
But we also had technical difficulties out the bottom, so.
Well, you can't have Technical Day without technical difficulties.
You can't have this podcast without technical difficulties. I've had an episode that we re-recorded 4 times. Like it's just like,
oh wow,
it used to be worse, but now it's just like it's definitely not great. I think, yeah, as I said, nobody wants me to do this. I'm allergic to my computer. The podcast never works. Like, someone's telling me to stop, but I'm not listening. So
yeah, fuck you. I will persevere.
exactly. This is Technical Dave, the podcast. So everybody, go check out Technical Dave. His all his links will be in the description. David, Razi, do you have anything left to say to the listeners?
Man, if I can get through it, so can you.
Yeah, that was not in your normal negative candor.
Okay, how about this? Everything's against you, so get ready for some bullshit, motherfucker.
Exactly. Subscribe, like, comment, do all your things. Thanks for listening. Peace.